Hey, I'm your host, Wes.
And I'm your host, Scott.
Come on in and grab a seat.
Because you're hanging with us at the Barbershop. Your woman's taking charge.
Oh, big time.
She's right. And look at mine. She's in first.
Yeah.
You don't think that plays out?
You mess up, you know where the
Yeah. You're like, your wife's really good. I'm like, yeah, I'm really scared.
Oh, I was looking at it from the other way, as in, like, I get to go to bed with the champion.
Oh, I never even thought of that. I'd be like,
so after what seems like weeks of planning and tripping and not sure what the hell we're doing, I guess this is it.
This is it. This is what Hangin at the Barbershop.
Hanging at the Barbershop. So I guess we can call this episode 0.5?
Episode 0.
-1?
-1.
-1?
The zero
I like the zero.
The zero issue. I like the zero. I do like the zero issue.
What was the zero issue? I have had zero issue comics, but right before I sold them.
I feel like zero issue comic books are a gimmick. They're just
I think it was that DC crossover event 0 Hour.
Oh, maybe.
Where every book got a zero issue. And then after that,
oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Right. Because what's the one? McFarlane's, that was Image?
Yep.
Image
yes,
had
Image
a
comics, yeah.
Like, was that like your it's not really your story, it's just your precursor or your intro, or
yeah, because Wizard published a bunch of 1/2 editions.
Oh, that's right, they did do that too.
Some of those are worth money now.
Right, they all are, right? And
No,
not all of them. Of course,
a lot of images in
the shit you own is not worth money. The shit you own isn't worth money. Some guys got stuff that's worth money, but it's never going to be you.
No, that's
Don't
right.
tell them I got some money stuff.
You do. You've got some money stuff. I know. We've talked before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hanging at the barbershop. Welcome. I can't believe we're here.
Yeah. Well, ideally, right? It's just sitting around the table, having a conversation, and maybe it'll be more episodic as we go. But as of right now, like, right, because we've said we should record what we talk about at the table on a lot of occasions.
It's funny when you're just living life and you're having conversations, and then you've hit this idea like, hey, we've both guested on other podcasts. This could be fun. And let's do our own.
Yeah. And I think I'm funny. I know I've laughed enough that I've brought tears to my face.
And the next thing you know, now you're listening to your conversations in a whole new light, because like you say, like, oh shit, we should be recording this stuff.
Yeah.
But you're not.
But right, I mean, you would never have said that, when we were kids and you like record yourself on a cassette.
Oh, don't remind me of that.
And you play it back. And I mean, like, right, maybe I don't like my voice when I record it here today, but man, I did not like my voice on a Casio.
No.
And right, single speaker, you're like, oh, that's terrible.
Right.
But, as technology has gotten better and more accessible, and I mean, right, it wasn't really too much of a hassle to hook this up tonight.
No, it wasn't, once we finally got the one major technical issue out of the way. But,
and there you are. You're right, you're recording, and I mean, right, soon to be uploading, and away you go, right? And all of a sudden you're like podcasters. Yeah.
And I mean, it's amazing how... And I say that it seems like forever, but the truth is it really hasn't been. I mean, I did some guest spots about a year ago.
Yep.
And I think you had done the same, but with other people.
I mean, ideally, probably more this year. I mean, even, you know what? I was truly jealous of, like, right when you did yours, I was like, oh, I would love to do that.
Oh, see, I wish I had known that then.
I wonder if I could just walk down and and inject myself.
Can I just jump in?
Hey, guys, knock on the window, be like, tap, tap, tap.
When our collective friend Sean, high school friend, when he was here doing that, and like, it was so, I keep saying that it was just, I found it really fascinating, because I really don't have any other way to describe it. Like, I just found it so fascinating. And then over the last, I wouldn't say 12 months, but pretty close, every time we get together and we have a few, beverages, and we start,
there's lots of discussion.
We start talking, and then we've touched on that. Like, geez, like, we've both guested, think should we do something on our, together? And it's like, oh, I don't know. And then you called me up and said, hey,
right? Come down to Peterborough. We'll guest on another one. And then when we're done, we get in the car and you're like, how serious are you? And I'm like, I'm serious.
And of course, then I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah. Which is great, right? And I mean, everybody's got a role to fill, right? So, I mean, right, you're going to have people that are artistic and you're going to have people that are technical and you're going to have guys that are creative and you're going to have guys that are entertaining. And I think, right, if you have the right mix of people and enjoyment and things like that, I mean, that's where the flow is, right? And you just hope that there's obviously an audience that wants to listen to your viewpoint.
While we talk about nothing.
Oh, exactly, right?
And here we are, right? So I can remember like not that long ago, like talking to you and talking to our producer friend, Andy, producer Andy, he's in the house, discussing like, hey, our first show, like, cause you had some ideas and we really kicked around this whole concept of Scotty doesn't know.
Doesn't know much.
Right. So, and I thought, that's really awesome. Like maybe we could do a show that's built around guests who come in and they bring their expertise in a subject that Scotty doesn't know. But that kind of evolved into, is Scotty doesn't know, is that a show or is that a segment?
That's actually a song. It was in Eurotrip.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And if I could rip off their music and use that as an intro, it would be my intro. But yeah, for sure. And that was the play on words. And the number of times I've kind of said it on air, I think I've only had two people now, thanks Andy, that have actually clued into, I love the play on
the song
that Scotty doesn't know. And I mean, to me, it's the story. It's the, like, as long as like 3 people clue in or 1 person every calendar year be like, oh, I loved Eurotrip.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be enough to keep that running title. Or as I say, we've also said, whatever we end up doing here is, is it going to be us every week chatting? Is it going to be kind of episodic where, every 5 episodes we're going to, braid Wes's beard and we're
going to measure it.
Yeah, we're going to, yeah. This is week 5, 10, 15, and 20. Yeah. Here is the latest Wes
beard length.
Yeah. Pull out the measuring tape. 2 millimeters longer. Sorry, bud.
Oh, 3 guys sitting around a table talking about measuring stuff. We just lost, 50% of our female listenership.
They're used to us lying, so they probably just sit back and laugh and be like, yeah, right, boys.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sitting around watching TV one night and we're cord cutters, so I don't watch regular TV, but so I'll watch every weird Netflix show, especially all the guilty ones, like the island shows and the hookup shows. Yeah, the circle.
Love.
Yeah. We're watching a cooking show, right? 'Cause Kim and I both like cooking shows, and it helps that we both like to cook, so good for us. But watching the show, and one of these guys takes his kid into old school barbershop. And that's when it hit me, when the guy was getting his kid into the chair and he's like, how are things going? And the old barber behind the chair said, well, I've had to do things by appointment now, and that's kind of working out. And then the father said, well, back in my day when I was young, a trip to the barbershop could have been all day and you didn't know what you were in for when you got there. But the key thing that I took away from that was, you go to the barbershop and typically there's a bunch of people sitting around there and you don't know what the conversation is going to be like, but that it's going to be something. You know what?
And I think too, very true, right? And I mean, I think you can still go to a barbershop and be there all day, depending on how that shop runs and, the conversation. And I think too, is it a 1 chair, 2 chair, 8 chair? And I mean, that's the great part. And then who's renting that chair or has that chair today? So, I mean, you could go in, you could have your regular guy, but the guys around him might not be regular or a different guy. It changes the entire aspect of what's going on. And, it could be the barbers just shooting the shit and busting balls. And, it could be a regular, piping up. I mean, I've seen it where I've been waiting, and like right there, even the guys that are waiting are chirping.
Oh, yeah.
And right. And I think that's, I mean, as much as guys hang out and guys do guy stuff, but I think, as a whole, men don't nearly talk enough in between themselves.
Well, yeah, I could spend an awful long time on this, but I will keep it succinct and short to say that as men, we are horribly disadvantaged when it comes to talking about anything that's not perceived as macho or, manly. So,
but ideally, right? If we've always talked about this, and maybe it's perceptive, right? Where if you and I had a disagreement, we may disagree, we might throw a punch, and then we can sit down and have a beer and it's over.
I'd rather just go right to the beer.
Oh, for sure, right? I don't know what the last time I threw a punch it would be. I might punch myself. But, you know, as a woman, though, you talk to a woman and she's like, oh, yeah, Debbie. It was 1995. And she said something bad about my frosted tips, and, man, she's dead to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's 2 decades ago. Dead, I said.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's good things to it and bad things to it, but I mean, and that's a whole episode in itself. So, I mean, right. But I think that's the cool thing is just to sit down and chat, and it's that nuance, right? So, but yeah, when you said hanging at the barbershop, I was like, oh, for sure. Cause we kind of threw around a few things,
yeah.
of, you know, chatting with Scott and Wes.
Yeah.
You know, but when you throw down and, you know, you put into Google, you know, guy versions of chatting, and there's a lot of beauty parlor references. And, you know, unfortunately in the world of podcasting, it's all audio. But if you had your hat off and I bent over, there's quite a play on words here because we're lacking a little bit up.
There's not a whole lot of barbering going on these heads.
No. So, but yeah, you know, I think we both grow the heck out of the facial hair.
That's true, yeah.
For sure.
It's funny, too, because I think, you know, we'd said, you know, the barbershop, no, that's really good. And I'm like, well, you know, barber or bartender, it's the same dynamic, you know, those people, and having a wife who's in the business, per se, who does get that, you know, in her salon, you know, those are 2 people that traditionally, you know, like, oh, you go and you tell your woes to, right? Your barber or your bartender.
Exactly, right?
I found so I found it totally hilarious as we're sitting there going, oh yeah, so we need to put some stuff together. Let's get our socials together. And you'd made the email, which I'd used the email to register everything else. And then I go to register our Twitter account, and I'm like, okay, so I can't get the barbershop. And I wasn't thinking enough to get the barbers, but it was hilarious when it shortened our Twitter handle down to hanging at the bar.
Which again is
I'm like 6 of one, half a dozen another, baby.
You understand it's on proper branding.
Yeah, exactly.
Branding is good. Yeah. So I mean in between hanging at the table and drinking rums or beers or ciders, not that we're overly picky.
Cold. Wet?
Well, for sure. I mean, right, you're not a Pilsner or you're not an ale.
You know what? I shouldn't get down on ales because there was a period of my life where I drank an awful lot of them, but I just find like the whole craft brewery thing, I'm a little disenfranchised, and I think maybe it has to do with the number of ales.
Well, it's easy, and
right.
I mean, there's history behind it, and right, IPAs, right? It's the way it goes. But as I say, there's lots of cool ones out there that are doing their own thing. You just got to really.
When all the brewmasters say that, you know, it's the easiest to make, I kind of go, oh, okay, well, that explains it, you know. And we had that trip away where we were gone for a couple of days, and we go to a local brew pub, and their board had 16 choices on it, and 14 of them were ales. You know, that kind of made me go, oh.
But I mean, really? Right? You're in sales, I'm in sales.
Yeah.
There is a certain degree of why would I bring something in that might only put a sparkle in, you know, 2 out of 10 guys come in. Sure. It's just like, right, you know, in clothing, I've got a certain demographic that still wants to buy corduroy pants. And I mean, right, I haven't worn corduroy pants since I was 7. I
haven't worn corduroy pants since they were considered snow pants.
Exactly. That's right. Put on your corduroys. It's cold.
You're going outside. You better wear 2 pairs of corduroy. Double up.
No, for sure. And right, I work at you know, in Peterborough, and Peterborough has a higher. It's very similar to our new hometown of Bob Cajun, but you know, the percentage of retirees and people over the age of 65 is big, and they are still firm believers in corduroy.
Corduroy makes a difference.
But yeah. It is, and I think that movement to whether it's beer or whatever you're making, you still sell to what the market will buy. Because it's great that you make the best whatever, but if no one's buying it, you're not going to be in business.
No, you're right. So just me being whiny. Oh, nothing new.
Tip it back and drink it.
So yeah, it's hanging at the barbershop. I actually got a barbershop story if you want one.
Sure.
So I'd mentioned this the other day when we were growing up. There was a local barber, and you remember Murray.
I remember that.
Yeah, Murray Bulmer. And Murray Bulmer probably cut every young boy's hair in the village for decades. And I can remember when Murray working at the back of his house and going and sitting in that big old-fashioned barber chair, going to get my hair cut for grade 8 graduation. And, you know, grade 8 by that time was, it had become a big thing, right? I think we were just sort of on the leading edge of that where it was a big to-do, you know. So there was like suits involved, and, you know, I wasn't one of those kids that rented a car or anything like that, but rented a suit. Go to get my hair cut, and it was right around that time. So it would have been like 1980, 88, 89.
Yep.
Right around the time. Remember the, I don't even know what you call it. You know, the shaved sides, but just the sides, like right to the wood.
Right. So like they're doing like a number 1.
Right. But there's no fade. It's just right to the wood, right?
Yep.
You know, guys that we went to school with that really rocked that. And it was never a me thing. Well, Murray says to me, "Do you want it shaved?" And I'm like, "Did you just say, do you want it short?" And I'm like, "My mom wants me to get it cut short." "Yeah, Murray." "Yeah." And he goes, and I went home. My mother was mortified that I'd gotten this haircut with these. Like right to the wood.
I feel for your mother. Because I think your mother and my mother were not far off.
No, they weren't.
That haircut was not in...
That was not happening in our house.
No, and then I remember, I think I did it in grade 9, and I blamed the football team. I'm like,
it
was initiation.
Everybody on the team
Everybody got
yeah,
this
yeah.
haircut. And she kind of looked at me, and she's like, you know, back in the day, I think if you were to ask my mother, she would have told you I had beautiful hair. I think I even remember somebody telling me I had, you know, getting it cut, and they're like, "You have such thick, wavy hair." And I'm like, where did it all go? So here,
oh my God!
But here, this will be my hair story the. So I remember going to Canadian Tire, returning something with one of the boys, and we're lined up to go to customer service. And you know, typical everywhere, they have closed caption television, and the screen's right in front of customer service. And you know, you're waiting your turn. You kind of look up, and you look up at the screen. And you're like, "Oh my God, look at that guy! He is super bald." And then you kind of realize that it's you.
Oh, he looks an awful lot. Oh.
And you kind of do the reach back and you touch it and you're like, well, it is me. And I'm like, and I think that's the problem. I don't know. I think the general creep back or the horseshoe so much, but when it's the bald spot behind and you still can kind of grow down the sides, you can still have a little bit up the front. You don't look at the back of your head, right? No. It's just like, I don't know, my back's hairy. It's like, right? That's somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that realization that to me too, it looks bald, but I run my hand over it and I'm like, oh no, there's still hair there. I can feel a little bit of fuzz, but
phantom hair.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I lost a limb.
Did you?
And I still feel the limb, but it's my hair.
Did you guys have shop class when you were in high school?
I attended. I'm not sure if I actually learned anything shoppy, but I attended.
Right. So grade 9, we did shop rounds because you couldn't go directly into the shop of your choice. You had to do them all.
Correct.
To make sure that you knew what you were doing. So I can remember going into Mac Gowan Locke's machine shop and day 1, and he pulls out the micrometer, and I was kind of, I'm a snotty little kid at the time, and he comes over and he pulls a single hair off the top of my head and measures it with the micrometer and tells me it's a little thin. And I was thinking, asshole, but turns out he was right.
He was correct.
He was totally
right, and
correct.
he was old when we went to school,
Yeah.
and you know what? I think he kept a full head of hair
right to the end.
So I guess at the end of the day, he knew something that you didn't know.
Yeah. And then of course I left, and I was that guy who I never really thought about it, but I held on to it right to the bitter end, right? Like when it was just a tuft on the top. But to me, I looked in the mirror and I saw like, Rico Suave. But it just
had some. Well, you had flow at the front.
I did.
Like, I remember you definitely had that.
Yeah, the swoop.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think when I think back to high school, that's how I.
Yeah, when I actually had decent hair
and product. I feel like you always had product in your hair.
I used a lot of product.
I sometimes wonder if that's what killed it.
Maybe. I know that I can tell you for a fact it started coming out. Well, clearly it was then in shop, but I definitely have a clear vision of like things were changing by 18. And then of course by the time I was 25 or 26, I was overseas, and I didn't have anybody to really impress, so it was just you go to the local barber and get it cut, and then I come home at Christmas and I go see Jim Harrington.
Yep, another good barber.
Yeah. And Jim is like, Jesus, boy, every time you come home, he's like, it's getting a little thinner up here. And I'm like, what?
Thanks for the update.
Yeah. So finally, I'm just like, take it all off. And then I've never looked back.
It's hair-free lifestyle, right? And I mean, it's, I often say, guys that can't grow it on top, thank God we can grow it on our chins and our lips. You're sporting, what were you saying? We're saying 6 months, 8 months?
So I had to go back to Facebook actually to find out, and I rolled back through my feed, and I figure at least last December that I started, possibly before.
Well, for sure. I mean, you've had a beard for quite some time, and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
grow out, I think, you know, for sure started December, and then COVID and quarantine has kind of encouraged that, I
absolutely.
think.
Yeah.
And you are basically, right, the Viking beads. That is the end goal.
That is the goal. You know, we're almost 12 months in, and I had a moment there 2 weeks ago where I was like, oh, I fucking hate this. I want to just rip it out of my face. But then it was like, no, this is not what I want to do. And really it's only that way because the sides don't grow maybe as long as the front does.
And that's, I think everybody has that somewhere on, right, how it fills in, or it fills in here first, and then it kind of grows in a little bit more. And as I say, there, when we kind of started hanging out again, and then, you know, there's an episode to talk about when I took my leave of absence.
That's right.
And
you let yours go.
Oh, it's like anything. So, right, just a little backstory. Volunteer in the fire department here with in Bob Cajun on Kawartha Lakes Fire, and because of health and safety, and you can't have facial hair.
No.
You can have a mustache, you can't have facial hair. So there, I took a leave of absence due to some medical stuff. Those are funny stories, but that's another episode.
Yeah.
It's like, as soon as you kind of get that time away from there, you're like, oh, I'm growing my beard.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
And I think it came in great. And
it did. Like, I wish I could grow at the rate that you do.
Yeah. And I trimmed it a couple times and things like that. And a little more gray this time than I remember. I guess that just shows as the years kind of go on how it fills out and the gray comes in. And, you know, once we get everything up and rocking, I'm actually quite tickled pink that our logo, spoiler alert, is a little bit of profile work done by our producer, Andy. He's pretty handy across the board, and he chose a picture of me with a beard, and it's
pretty good.
It makes me miss the beard. Did you keep my Facebook?
I did.
Nice. And you know what? Yeah, I was like, man, I've talked to you like maybe a half dozen times here and, you know, around, and it's like, man, he picked a great picture. And I was like, I love it. That's Happy Scott.
I couldn't agree more.
And
it is,
it's funny, and right, I cut it off, and then I went clean shaven for a little while, and right, my wife was, I think she was happy when I shaved it, and then I'm back to rocking this disgusting dirt mustache.
Wow.
Yeah, I like it, and
it's good. It fills out your face.
I think so.
It does.
And it still grow. I could definitely, if I took the time, and I could style it, and I could probably let it grow out a little more and curl it, but that just reminds me of, like, there's a teacher at Bob Cajun Public School, and he was a big waxer and I just like, maybe not.
I knew guys that wax their mustache, but I always thought of it as this, like, antiquated, having a military background, right? I knew guys that wax their mustaches, but they were like these old sergeant major types who were like, you know, they had to be at least, you know, 250 years old. Like,
right.
These guys are like walking vampires, right?
That
like,
was the hint when I was going to say, Wes, guess what?
Yeah.
We're getting old. It's maybe time to wax our...
So, well, interestingly enough, with COVID and having to wear the face mask, of course, you know, having the length that I do have means that every time I talk, I'm eating beard or mustache. I went to adjust it last night at the Axe Club, and Kim looked at me and she's like, "Oh my God!" And she reached over and I saw that. She kind of put a little curl into the sides of the mustache, and like that was just.
What's the guy on? Not Henry and Bullwinkle, Rocky and Bullwinkle. What's the bad guy?
Oh, yeah.
Top hat and
yeah, I know who you're thinking.
Dastardly,
he did look dastardly. And I like Ray is so sweet. You guys are having a little moment, and she's kind of reaching out and touching your face and rolling your mustache. Yeah. And I look over and I'm like, "Oh, you sexy man," and just like ruin it. I'm like, perfect. That's what I was aiming for.
Yeah. So I think ideally for me, the goal is to, you know, I'm virtually almost 12 months into it now. If I can do it this long, I'm going to try and go another 12. And if at the end of 24 months, if the sides have not filled in long enough where I can pull it all into one big braid, I'm going to shave the sides off and just keep the
goat.
The super long goat. And I'll do either pony with that or.
Well, here's a question, and I mean, I'm sure there's guys out there. Would you ever use a supplement or like a beard oil that was too promote growth. You know, some, what do you call it?
Rogaine for beards.
Rogaine for beards, or some witchcraft, or, you know, behind-the-counter supplements. Or
Oh, I'd use the voodoo witchcraft, but I'd never tell you.
No, oh, okay. Just all of a sudden one day it looked like you glued carpet to your face.
I am certainly not opposed to using a product. And Kim's brought me home some beard oils, and there's one I like particularly better than another.
But again,
one,
it's not necessarily a growth.
No, it's just
enhancement.
it's more of just a conditioning treatment.
Viagra for your face,
more or less.
That's what I'm talking about. We
spent a little bit of money, and we got me the heated beard brush. I really like it.
It's a luxury that
it really is. Yeah, it's really nice.
I'll be honest. You look good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the freshly out of the shower, like, run my fingers through it and leave it. But
you go from looking like a ragamuffin to like a suave, debonair guy.
It's almost like the Dos Equis guy, you know? Like,
it is.
Hey, my friends.
Yes.
When I comb my beard,
Yeah.
I use my fingers.
The most interesting man in the world. Yeah.
But when I don't, I use my beard.
Yeah. But it's a pretty sweet device if you are a gentleman of the long beard persuasion. I highly recommend you get one.
You haven't burned yourself yet?
No, it's actually designed really well that you've got to really mess it up to burn yourself. We started with Kim's flat iron, right? Which I would never think of doing, but
ideally it's the same thing.
She's a professional, and I'll trust her to the end of the world.
Right.
But with the flat iron, you can only get so close to skin because the surface, it's hot. Whereas with the beard brush, there's 4 rows of teeth, and only the center 2 rows are heated. They have like an additional little ring, but the ring is not the full depth of the tooth. So
they've ergonomically designed.
Yeah, you can literally, you could press it into your face as hard as you want, and it's not, you'll feel the heat, but you're not going to burn yourself.
Right.
So.
And exactly, right? And I mean, she got it at a professional supplier because, again, she's in the business. It's not like you bought the one that shows up on my Facebook feed and...
I watched the guy compare the model that I have with like a $30 Amazon one, and he actually picked the $30 Amazon model, to be honest.
That's better.
Yeah, he preferred it because they had a cord swivel.
Oh, very cool. And again, this is right? Bookmark this for episode ideas, right?
Absolutely.
So that would be awesome to
product reviews.
For sure.
Manly product reviews. I'll review your man products.
Yeah.
Within reason.
Anything Wes isn't willing to rate or open, I will.
I will review all of your products up to a rating of 18.8.
I think, right? And we've talked about this, right? Where do we sit on topics?
Where's the limit?
And I'm like, I have no limits. As long as there's a story and I'm laughing by the end of it, I'm in. And Wes is like, oh, I don't know if I want to go.
I don't know if I can get there
quite that far. And I'm like, oh, that's cool, right? You just have to you have to be my partner in the seat. You don't have to do what I do, but just come along for the laugh.
I was thinking of the boys show and how they kind of, they were doing the Top Gear intro, right?
Yes.
Some say. And I was like, how can we do that? And I had some ideas, and it was like, oh shit, now I can't even think of what it was. He's the salt to my pepper.
Oh, are we?
That kind of stuff, right?
Right. We almost avoided, when you say salt to your pepper, my yin to my yang, you're really kind of bringing up what the girls have said all along, that we've got a little
bromance going on.
And
And apparently there's photos that support this.
Oh, bud.
But I think they're contrived because they wait until something completely innocent happens and they go, see?
Right? Just the two of us walking down the street, each with a case of moonshine in our hands. And, right, our hands aren't really touching.
No, they are not.
But, perspective. And then, bam, picture taken.
Oh, look, the boys are frolicking in the surf.
That was a good day.
We were body surfing.
Yeah. And then just both of us came up at the same time. And
hey, dude, you want to go body surfing tomorrow? Yeah. We'll go check out, see what the surf is like. Oh, it's really good today. Let's go. Yeah, let's do that. And then drink, several liters of ocean and then sick for the rest of the day.
I was not in good shape.
No.
But right. And again, I think that's, it's interesting, right? Because I wouldn't say I probably 3 days, maybe not even a week of, that I would have hung out with you when we were kids.
Yeah, when I go back and I really think about it too, it's
acquaintances,
because there's a small age gap. But when you're a young kid, when you're in elementary school and even in high school, that
8 to 9,
year,
9 to 10, it's
that,
you don't
that
talk.
1 year gap. That's we're not even in the same, we're not on the same planet.
No. And for me, and it's interesting too, because I think we've had this conversation where I found that gap kind of shortened is I think I did a little bit more sports when I was in high school, and right by default, how the teams are organized. So again, you got grade 9s with grade 10s.
You did, yeah.
In, basketball or volleyball or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, right, for sure, I never say I was talented, but...
Oh, I definitely was
no,
not.
But Michelle kind of gives you like, oh, no, you were on all the teams. I said, yeah, I tried out for all the teams so I could miss class.
Oh, well, there you go.
And, right, somebody was kind enough to put me on the bench, and and whether I was good or whether I was not, that will not be discussed tonight. But
it's really bizarre, though, because, like, I did... Oh, man.
I feel like you were like music.
No, but see, this is the thing. I didn't have a sports background. I played grade 9 football, and
that was enough of that. I
grade
agree.
9, yeah, and I got really knocked around, so it wasn't fun. And the only other sport that I actually did was curling, and I don't think you were on the curling team. So,
I was not. I liked to curl.
Yeah.
But
so
in high school, that was not high on my list.
I think about the neighborhood kids. And when I think the neighborhood kids, I know we had common friends.
Yeah.
But I don't think we ever hung out with those common friends at
together.
The same time.
No, for sure.
I still have a hard time thinking, because I remember going to your house.
On Francis?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
I remember going to your house, playing Transformers at your house.
For sure.
Yeah. And once or twice?
Like I said, right? And,
yeah.
And now, as I say, we meet as men or growing ups or whatever.
Sure.
And I mean, I don't think there's a week go by that I don't hang out with you. Or
I feel like if I don't talk to you at least once a week, there's something wrong.
Yeah, right? We've gone on a few vacations, a few adventures.
That's a huge one, though. Like when you're vacationing together as couples, like that is a whole other level of friendship. It's one thing to say, hey, we're going to this place, and we all show up independently of each other, but no, we are purposely booking this thing. Let's go together.
Exactly. And you know what, as I say, it makes me wonder if we would have somehow, could we have had this relationship when we were children?
Well,
or just too different?
I don't know. Probably not. I mean, like, I know where my life went after high school, and particularly in high school. Like, I did not achieve. I was very underwhelming, and I hung out with all the wrong people for all the wrong reasons and did all the wrong stuff. Girls were more important than grades, and as long as I was getting what I wanted and having a good time, I didn't care. So it's taken me a whole long time to figure out how to be a normal human being.
Yeah, and to me, that was like, right, I hung out with my sports buddies.
Yeah.
We drank a ton.
Yeah, well, I did a lot of that.
Yeah,
we probably could have.
Probably, yeah. But right, we were doing it with different people,
right,
and probably different parties and different towns.
Oh, for sure,
and all that stuff. And
sure.
Where you had to wait to find your bestest wife ever. I found my bestest wife pretty early on, and
your bestest only.
Bestest only.
Yeah, I can't say that.
That's all right. Everybody has a different road to travel.
That's taken me this long to figure it out. That's what I mean, though. Right?
As I say, right, if I had to give up knowing you in high school or not being your friend in high school to have the friendship I have with you now.
It's a fair trade-off.
Man, I'm so much happier with this.
Yeah, it's a totally fair trade-off, and I would totally agree with you on that.
I think, thank God, I'm far less an asshole now than I was then.
Well, see, I don't know because
that's self-reflection, right?
I think
same as you say, like, right, you're a different person now.
At the age that we were playing Transformers, I can't say that you were an asshole because you let me play with your Transformers, and that was cool. So, because I sure as hell wouldn't let you play with my Transformers now.
No, I don't think you know what? It's funny. I'm still that nervous kid because, right, I've occasionally.
I don't want to break it.
No, it's like, why is the leg so stiff? Why can't I get it into car mode? I'm like,
Am I doing this right? If I push too hard, what's going to happen?
Yeah. And then it's like, and just like we were saying earlier, some of your toys are actually worth money. I'd be like, here's a body and a leg. I'm sorry, I gotta go.
It's okay though. Don't feel too bad. They've actually become a lot more user friendly that way. So lots more like ball joints and stuff.
Right.
They give a lot more.
Right. Reinventing and bringing people back in that can't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, right. If you want people to buy it, you have to make it usable.
That's true. Yeah. Well, who am I kidding? I mean, toys are. You look at what's on the shelves right now. It's 2020, and the biggest properties on the shelves right now are
80s franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got The new AEW wrestling figures have just dropped, so they're pretty big. You've got Mattel, who's redoing a new Masters of the Universe line. Hasbro is still cranking out Star Wars action figures like there's no tomorrow. You've got G.I. Joe has made a resurgence. You're talking about all these, classic 80s boy.
Do you think no one has original good ideas anymore, or is somebody just too afraid to greenlight it?
It's hard to say. I think being in that business, it is a lot of adult men who are collecting
disposable income.
Yeah. My target audience is what? Men ages 25 to 50, I guess. Who are just wanting to recapture a little bit of.
But there's the question. What are kids playing with now?
iPads.
Technology.
Yeah. Insert pun there.
Technology. Yeah.
Oh, you guys didn't get it.
Yeah, well, it couldn't be girls because, they'd have to pull themselves off the iPads and the PlayStations and the phones. And
right.
Depending on what video they're watching, it could be themselves.
Oh, well, there you go.
It could be.
But with all the 18 plus blockers,
I tell you, I have TikTok. And
you may not for much longer.
I'm a firm believer it's not going anywhere.
Oh, it probably won't go anywhere. But I think it's funny that it's on the table.
Yeah. And again, anything that I have that's within the last 5 years of multimedia is because of my daughter and wanting to associate with her.
Oh, you want to relate to her?
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Well, right. I do believe we're in a Snap group.
We are.
That's predominantly my daughter snapping and then us snapping back at her.
Yeah.
If she wasn't on Snapchat, I wouldn't be on Snapchat. I'm sure as shit that Wes wouldn't be on Snapchat.
Well, there you go. There's another kitchen table talk. The four of us sitting around over drinks and going, what the hell is a Snape chat?
Yeah.
How do I use this thing?
But
and then it's only been in the last month or two that I realized if you hold the button, it does video. And that just
you like that.
You want to talk about
filter his voice.
The number of times I've been sat there just playing with Snapchat by myself, and Kim's like, what are you laughing at? I'm like, me, I'm laughing at me.
I'm an adorable chipmunk right now. Listen to my voice. No, for sure. But the other day, she sent me a snap on her way to school, and I'm like, did you miss the bus? And it's a little cat in a window of a car.
Oh, yeah.
So to me, it looks like she's the cat and that she's in her mom's SUV because that's what the perspective looks like.
Right.
And most of the filters, I guess is what we're going to call them, it just changes your face, and then your background's your background. So it doesn't change. And this one actually changed the entire background. And I'm like, she gets home from school and she's like, why did you ask me if I missed the bus? And I'm like, I said, well, I'll send you back the snap. And when I sent the snap back, I was in the SUV. And she's like, oh, that makes so much more sense. And I'm like, yeah, your dad is old and thought you missed the bus and your mama drove you in and you took a snap in the car.
Yeah. It's funny, too, when you say your dad is old. It reminds me of, what was the question that we got when we were on Corey's podcast? What's your favorite app? And I'm like, it's got to be Facebook. It's the social media for old people.
Oh, for sure, right? And it's like all your friends are on it.
Yeah,
your parents are on it.
Yeah,
and right, you're using it. And as I say, right, I enjoy Instagram still. More of a picture guy than chain letters that tells me if I share it, I'm going to be rich tomorrow.
You'll be happy to know I just learned today, because we have, when I say we, I mean Kim and I have Facebook pages set up for both the businesses, right? So we basically manage them through the Facebook Pages Manager.
I think I saw this post. I am excited that there's actually an app to manage it all.
So Facebook Pages Manager is now becoming Facebook Business Suite, and we'll be able to manage Facebook and Instagram from one UI. So that's going to be really good for us, the more that we do this, so that we're not bouncing around all over the place trying to figure out, a bunch of different platforms.
And again, if we were smart on episode 1, we would have had all that written down.
I know.
So we could be like, insert, edit.
Yeah, you could totally plug our social media
IG,
right here.
Facebook,
yeah,
Twitter.
So I mean, if you like what you're hearing, give us a like on Facebook, and
find us on Instagram.
Yeah.
But as you say, we're definitely testing out the equipment tonight, and then we're going to do this probably another 4 or 5 times, and do some editing and get some more structure. And then hopefully we're uploading and getting
we'll get it out there into the world. And I think we're pretty much set on our hosting platform, which we still have to make an account for as of this recording, but you should be able to find us on all of your favorite podcasting platforms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's exciting stuff.
It is.
At the end of the day, right? And I tell you, it hasn't been too hard to get into the game.
No, the barrier to entry is actually not that bad. And it's even easier if you have a couple of partners that want to do it with you. So
always good, right? A little moral support, a little creative grease, and away you go.
And you know what? If you're not willing to take the plunge and you want to check it out, there's one more reason that you want to maybe give us a little, give us a like, give us a comment, because we're thrilled to have some other people come on in and either want to come on the show with us, or maybe we can help produce a show for you too. So
exactly.
It could be a lot of fun.
Mutual.
Yeah, exactly. Are you dry?
Oh.
Are you getting tapped out?
I'd take a break.
Would you take a break?
Yeah.
All right. And pause for now. And through the magic of editing, we're back.
Hey, I'm not parched anymore.
No, me neither. Bladder's empty.
Yeah.
Producer Andy has gone home for the night.
Left the building.
Yeah, flew the coop.
Man, I do not miss having young children.
You know what? I don't either, to be honest with you. But you know what? I also don't miss having adult children either, because they're almost... Well, you can relate to that too. So.
Oh, for sure, right? So now, grandchildren, on the other hand...
Oh, I love them. They're not mine, and I can send them home.
Right? And I think something generationally speaking has changed in children.
Sure it has.
Your grandchild is how old?
Wait, she's coming up on, 18 months?
18 months, and our mine's about 16 months. They're not too far apart.
No, they're not.
So, right, we're enjoying the same milestones as each other, and, you changed a poopy diaper yet? I think there for a while you were doing really well avoiding it.
I've been in the presence of poopy diapers, but you know what? This happened to me professionally years ago, where I was doing hospital shifts at Vancouver General Hospital as part of my
I almost need
paramedic
not
course.
To continue, because you know what? I appreciate this tenfold, because I will agree there is a world of difference in between baby poop
and senior citizen poop.
Ooh, bud.
So this is my callous, jokey answer, but let's be realistic. There's a modicum of truth. If I didn't make it, then I don't want to change it, right?
Very true.
So when it came to my own kids, I was a trooper. I did all that stuff.
I feel like that was my go-to.
Yeah.
Michelle was never very mobile after childbirth.
Sure.
And I really, not that I did a lot, but I felt like that my responsibility was, and I felt like back in the day I could get up, lie back down and be back to sleep. And if I could keep her in bed, I'd hop up, do, a bum change, bring the baby back to Michelle,
sure,
do another diaper change and put the baby down, and then be back to sleep and be like, easy peasy. I always said I was a great dad to young children. And as they progressed and got mouthy and started to have their own issues, I was slowly became a worst father.
Yeah, I don't even know where I fit in on that spectrum, to be honest. I did all the stuff that you're supposed to do. I did diapers and bums and daycare, and I did all the running and the collecting and all the stuff that you're supposed to do, and my kids are still assholes.
Which I think at the end of the day, if your kids are good, I don't know, maybe you probably didn't do anything wrong, because I feel like I didn't do a whole lot wrong. And I mean, right, love my children, but I mean, they all have idiosyncrasies that annoy the piss out of me. Sure. But right, the grandbaby, as I say now, if you get stuck, if you have an emergency diaper change, Wes, I would tell you,
I'd be in there.
Lots of wipes.
Oh yeah.
If you think you need 3, pull 6.
Take 6, yeah.
And have the diaper out and open.
That's crucial, by the way.
And then I'm a big fan of like the double ankle grab and just treat them like a rag doll.
Oh yeah.
And you control the bum.
Yeah, of course.
And and
we're at a point now where hands that try to get in there. So
tip 3, give them something to amuse themselves other than their own junk.
I just want to go back and say, I know I just called my children assholes, but the truth is they would probably call me the same thing. So just just to keep things on the level here, like
very fair, right?
Yeah,
And I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure my children aren't always very happy with me, and if we really want to post an edit, we'll post an edit.
yeah, that's too easy.
It's fantastic. I can say whatever I want.
That's right.
It's very therapeutic.
Through the magic of editing.
And then it'd be like, we need to get rid of that.
Yeah.
They might be listening.
Mine, I can almost guarantee will not.
No. Maybe one of mine will. Maybe two. Actually, Ethan and I listened to a podcast.
I was going to say, if I had to guess, the youngest two would be listening.
Yeah.
For sure.
Ethan and I listened to a podcast today driving to work, and he's a couple times he's like, I can't believe they're saying that. I'm like, it's not like it's radio. It's a podcast. It's the Wild West.
Yeah, for sure.
And, it's funny. I laughed and he laughed sort of at the same points. And, it kind of puts a smile on your face when you sort of see those idiosyncrasies in your children. You're like, I made that happen.
I think there's a catharsis to, it's that full circle moment where, your parents said, one day you're going to say the same things that I've said. And you're thinking, no, I'm not.
Not a chance.
But then it happens.
I think I'm a different parent than my parents. I think you're a different
I am
person
definitely,
than your parents.
I am definitely a different person than my parents. But I mean, like my parents, I am a product of my generation and our generation and all of the influences that have led me to where I am now.
Yeah. And it's everybody's in a different aspect and stuff like that. And I think that's, if we ever want to talk, I find like my dad's line is so interesting, from Ryerson to Atomic Canada to like owning a hardware store. I mean, it's just bizarre. It's a story in itself, right? But I mean, for the love of a good woman, apparently.
Yeah. And contrastingly, my father, born on a farm, the surviving twin of twins, incubated in an oven, and then
that's a story.
Yeah. So like hard life, sibling number, I lost count. There are several siblings in that family, but you could imagine like it was hard living. And so that's my dad. And so I didn't get any of the stuff that, I didn't get to play catch with my dad. I didn't get to do any of that stuff. Right.
I feel like no, but you know what? I'll be honest is, I don't think I have a lot of those moments with my dad. Right. And I think our fathers are different people, but I still don't think.
I think your dad, as a university educated man, though, has a different capacity for
but I mean,
for learning.
He
right?
was a Boy Scout. He was a leader in Boy Scouts. He has a plaque somewhere in that house of his that says that. And I mean, right? I can't tie a knot to save my goddamn life. I'm like, where did it skip? Or I just wasn't interested in learning from my dad.
Right. Yeah.
He wasn't cool.
No, I definitely was not interested in learning from my dad either, because all he did was teach me what not to do. So
I was going to say maybe to drink.
Oh, well, yeah, but unlike my dad, I do not, I don't come home at the end of the day, light up a cigarette and, pour 3 fingers of rye and then fall asleep with the lit cigarette in my hand. So
different. I was going to say my parents didn't teach me how to drink, and I probably almost became an alcoholic because of it.
I tell you what, though, I did take a bottle of my dad's rye once. Yeah, took it to a party. My mom got to me before he did, and it's probably better that way because I might not be here.
Well, it's so different, right? As you grow up, my parents didn't smoke. My parents didn't drink. I feel like my parents weren't very social people.
Oh, I was the bartender when I was old enough to
We've
pour.
talked about this.
Yeah,
and I mean, like, right? And I raised my children sort of to be that way. It's like, I certainly remember telling my kids, they're like, can I have a soda? I'm like, no, soda's for whiskey.
Yeah.
If you want to have some whiskey in that soda, you go ahead.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I'm like, why are you drinking sodas? And then child number one's like, it's got whiskey in it. It's okay. I'm like, too much whiskey. But I again, right? But as I say, back to the girls and the granddaughters.
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
We lamented out of something cool and fun, and we started talking about.
Started going down the sorrow hole.
Oh, episode on its own. It'll be very lethargic one day, but not today.
Cathartic.
Cathartic?
Lethargic. I'm lethargic now.
I am often lethargic.
I'm sitting on this chair and it's feeling pretty good.
She doing anything cool or new?
She's always doing something cool. Emily posts all the time, so we're always catching 10-second video clips and
exactly
stuff. The vocabulary, I think, is the one that gets me the most, because like just not new words, but the evolution of the words that she already knows. So going from like
baby talk
to real
I know what that is, and
sentences,
then it's like, oh, So yeah,
instead of 1-word expressions, you're getting 2 and 3 word like sentences with context, and that's like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, and I say we're kind of getting to the 1 and 2 words, but just a lot of baby talk still, and everything's sort of the same 2 words. And you're like, oh, do you mean this? She found her piggy bank this week.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I've seen the update video of her plunking change into the piggy bank.
Right.
Which I assume is probably going to mean she's going to soon learn the word change and walk into every room with her hand out being like, change?
Quarter.
Oh.
Dollar.
Toonie. Let's be right. A smart kid nowadays, like, here's a penny. These aren't even in circulation anymore.
What's a penny?
Yeah, cheap ass grandpa.
That's a thing that Americans have.
Yeah. But she's walking up a storm. Funny, we were talking there the other day about quality and control of children, right? And be like, we were kind of joking about, parents and, sometimes you see them out in public with their kids and they're out of control, or they're climbing on furniture, or they're jumping on chairs. And you're like, I was at work this weekend. My lovely wife was in charge, and the baby can now get into a regular kitchen table chair.
Right.
So, she's quite content. She was sitting there and she was playing with something on the table, and Michelle went into the kitchen, which is attached to the dining room, and bent over and picked something up, and she turned around and the baby was sitting on the table. And I'm like, oh, it's funny. Me and Wes were talking bad about people like you. And she's like, I didn't see you and Wes here. And I'm like,
we've gone the other way where, like, Melody's gotten to the point where, okay, the high chair is probably overkill, and the model that we had wasn't conducive to take the tray off and roll it up to the table, so we swapped out to a booster seat. But the booster seat that we had, I should say that we still have it, but that we've promptly retired. The model, for whatever reason, you strap it to a chair and then you put the child in it, but there's no strap for the child. And there's no, we'll call it the traffic cone in the middle that keeps you from...
The peg that doesn't help you.
Yeah. So there's no peg. And so here's this thing strapped to a dining room chair, and same kind of thing, turn away for a minute to go get the plate of food thinking she's okay. And the next thing you know, she has partially started to slide out from underneath the tray, but not any of the wherewithal to like grab the sides and
she
stop
just knows
herself.
She's going, right?
No. So you know what she does? She proceeds to flail from the waist down and then throws her arms straight up over her head. So
down
now,
the slide.
Right. So now she's in the booster seat with the tray up to her chin, and she's starting to panic because she can't get out. So it was like, oh, we need a new one.
It's funny, right? And I mean, it probably wasn't that old a unit, or, it's just when you buy and you don't think of it, and it's like, right, it's a booster.
Oh, like everything else.
Just like we're not allowed to play with lawn darts.
Okay.
Jolly jumper on wheels have been banned. ATVs with 3 wheels.
Yeah.
All the cool stuff.
Yeah, all the stuff we would have had as kids.
Right, and lead paint.
I'm still upset about lawn darts. Those were fun.
Right, I mean, right, you can buy them now with, like, reinforced plastic. And
really?
Yeah, there's a few knockoffs that they're trying to still make them fun.
I never liked the big mushroom tipped ones. I just thought they were pretty silly.
Well, right, you've taken the weapon part out of it.
Yeah,
and I mean, for 2 guys that now find axe throwing
enjoyable,
it's like, right. I got a buddy, right, and he's like at the club.
Yeah,
and he's like, yeah, I've got a target at home, and you start with the axes, and then you bring out the knives, and then you bring out the compound bow. And then you bring out the crossbow.
Oh, yeah, right.
And I mean, right, and the array of weaponry this man has in his home.
Really?
And I'm like, so, like, if you live in Lindsay and you're mad at your neighbor, maybe just keep your mouth shut, because apparently some of them are heavily armed. Yeah, I think the funniest one was the blow darts.
Oh.
Right? I'm like, are you a pygmy? Ah.
I know we got looking at the, what's his name? Warrior. The guy in
Coburg.
The club in Coburg, and of course, looking at potentially picking up axes for Kim and myself to use at the league instead of having using the club stuff. And I'm rolling through their website, and I get down to the bottom of their shop, and it's oh, that's really good.
Producer Andy did leave, and then proceeded to take some photos, and has already posted them. And
are those on our Instagram?
Just on the feed.
Just our conversation
feed.
Well, that's great then. So let's could be our first official promos.
There you go.
Yeah. So scrolling down on their website, and I said to Kim, I'm like, look, they sell kunai, and if you don't know what kunai are, they're like throwing knives. And Kim was like, yeah, I saw those. I think those would be a lot of fun. I'm like, ooh.
Right.
Yeah, let's get a set.
And again, I think they're a full service. If it's a weapon and it can be thrown.
Yeah.
And it's cool because I think you go there and they're secondhand, but in website stuff. But you go there, you pay your hour fee.
Sure. Throw whatever you want.
Yeah. You want to throw knives?
Well, it's funny you say that because there was a couple of shovels on the list. I'm like,
there is tactical
shovels.
I've seen it, and I mean, you're on the internet enough. You've probably seen a couple crazy Russian hacker videos.
Yeah.
I mean, right? He throws stuff that has no right sticking into a target.
Right.
Somehow he magically makes it happen.
Well,
But yeah, so
or the Russian guy who did the test, with what goes up must come down. With the 50 caliber?
I'm not familiar
50
with
cal,
that.
yeah. Fires a 50 cal off, as vertical as he can get it to try and...
Have it come down identical.
Yeah.
Oof.
It's pretty interesting. And then, they've got cameras and microphones set up, and you don't see the splash, but there's a couple of the shots that you can hear the whiz on the round coming back in. And they're like hiding under a car.
Well, it would hit
terminal
velocity coming back down,
for
right?
Sure it would.
Yeah. Right? I guess if you've got the stuff and you have the space to do it. I mean, everybody's doing crazy stuff on the internet.
Yeah. Down south in the land of the free and the home of the Trumpery.
Right. It's still a great place to vacation, though.
Oddly enough, I've got a friend of mine, a guy that I worked with when I was still in uniform, who retired to Quebec, is in Virginia right now. And it's like, what are you doing down there?
Was he on that side and got stuck?
No, he hopped on a plane in Dorval and flew down to Virginia.
Like lately?
Like this week.
Okay, so travel restrictions are obviously a little bit more open?
I guess.
And what was the end result of his trip?
I'm not sure what the purpose of the trip was, but the photos from the Smithsonian Aviation Museum were pretty cool.
Right? To that, it's all open, right?
Yeah.
Down there, it's like, it's business as usual, right? Where we're getting ready to slam the door.
Yeah, we're about to lock the doors here again.
Second wave, right? So I was saying to you earlier, we just got notification that tomorrow we are starting pre-screening for our employees when they arrive to work. So, the typical 3 questions, have you been in contact with anyone with COVID?
Do you have any symptoms?
Have you been out of the country? And then the big list of, I think the last question has 8 parts. So if, runny nose, headache, fever, achiness, diarrhea, the huge list that is COVID. And if they answer yes to any 3 questions, you don't come to work today. So, I mean, that was end of day. So that was a little stressful at 4:00 when I'm done at 5 to then talk to our team member that's leading this weekend, which is not me.
Right.
Yay.
So you're expecting your phone to ring?
You know what? I have a good team,
Yeah.
and I have a team member that's closer than me. So, and he's certainly a parachute that we've utilized a lot to solve a lot of problems. It's amazing too. Like as a retail and living not in the town that I work, it gets harder. I mean, people commute to work, and I mean, you wonder how when you have these phone lists, or when I grew up in Fenland and we owned the hardware store.
Yeah.
How many people called my dad for electrical problems or a sump pump on Christmas morning? And, he went. And, how does that work now when, your owner and your staff don't necessarily live close?
Yeah, I'm really lucky. I mean, our recording space is, my small business. And I think as the crow flies, I'm 500 meters to my front door.
I can see it. If I walked out to the road, I could probably see your car.
Yeah, we could see my car. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, we're on the right side of the bypass.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I guess I don't think I take it for granted, but now when you mention it like that, it really has allowed me to do the way that I'm doing things by appointment only, right? So
it's worked very well, and you're not very long run down, and
I can do stuff like short notice.
I mean, right? I could encourage you to go for a pointless 45-minute commute twice a day, and you'd soon appreciate.
And I did that for a little while, and the commute had its advantages because any crap that I had accumulated during the day, I had that 45-minute decompression. Right?
Yeah, and as I say, right, nowadays, I mean, right, what would you have done then? Listen to, throwing a CD in, or listen to the radio? Listen to your own thoughts.
Very rarely, like for me, like if I needed to, I love music, man. But that last real job that I had, air quotes, real job, it had way more stress than it, should have had. And I don't know. I'm partly to blame for that because of the way I carry my stress. But for me, like if I'm angry stress, it's got to be angry music. And angry music makes me feel better. Oh,
for sure. I think that's a lot of people, right? I mean, it's a little of my judgmental, but right. I mean, angry music is, I mean, it's primal, it's base. You're not listening it for the lyrical content or, unfortunately, I would say the understanding of what all the lyrics are about.
My go-to angry music is Metallica's Death Magnetic.
Right.
I love that record.
And I mean, that was a good album. That was later in... Correct, later in
there. That's only a few years old.
Yeah, it's the one with the coffin on the front of the cover, right? I think I own it.
It's white and black.
Yeah, but yeah, later in their album life, they certainly don't sing like they did in Master of Puppets.
Oh my God, no.
So right, and yeah, exactly, right. So I mean, you start to be able to hear the words. They're not being able to maybe screamo or whatever. But I mean, right, we're children of the '90s, and I'm not sure where you sat, but I mean, I was a flannel wearing, card carrying, grunge member.
Oh, like work boot, foot shuffling.
Man, I had more work socks than you could shake a stick at. Had my Doc Martens, had flannel. I mean, right? Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Nirvana.
I wanted Doc Martens, and I didn't get any until I was in my 30s.
It happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved it. And I mean, some of that was very lyrical and understandable, and some of it was a lot of mumbling.
I would say that of that genre, like I like a lot of those bands, and I think I like them probably more now than I did then. But then again, as a music fan, I think I just have a better appreciation for the musicality of it,
Yeah, I think that's what ideally, if you think of when that was and what was popular, I think that's why it did so well, because it was different and it was harder. And I mean, I was never a heavy metal kid. And I mean, heavy metal was popular then, but right, grunge was still sort of that aspect, but you know what, I attached myself to it. And I mean, Whitney Houston was big then, Paula Abdul, like the boy bands, like they were
real pop music.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, as a guy back then, I didn't think I could like female artists.
Well, it's funny because I had that same sentiment. And this isn't I really don't want it to be a sexist thing, but for years I would say I just don't like female singers. And then I discovered Heart.
Right.
And it's like, okay, I like Ann Wilson.
There'll always be somebody that you listen to, and whether it's soulful or whether it's it's kind of waily, or it's however you pitch it. But I mean, there's something that tugs at that string that sits inside of you.
Yeah.
I mean, like Annie Lennox, like, right? And I mean, when she was with the Eurythmics, I mean, it was okay because there was a dude.
Oh, yeah.
But then when she was by herself, it's like, can I still like her because it's just Annie Lennox?
Sure you can. I think it's really, really interesting, like, to contrast the 90s with any other era. Like, you look at just the charts, right? And I don't necessarily mean, like, the Canadian charts, but if you look at Billboard, so Hot 100.
Yep.
There's a YouTuber that I follow that does, like, music stuff, and they were doing years. And
top of this, top of that.
So they did like just a very impromptu video. He's like, I'm just going to put this out there. He's like 84 or 87. And, when you start looking back at what was on the Hot 100, then like you would never have a Hot 100 in 2020 that you did in 1984 or 1987. Like, get this, like, these are the two that really strike me. 1987, you had Michael Jackson's Bad. So there's one end of the spectrum.
Yep.
Same year, Def Leppard's Hysteria.
Exactly.
Both charting at the same time, on the same charts.
Yeah.
Like you just wouldn't see that today.
No. And I think too, if you dig into it and you're a real audiophile, you might be using the wrong word, but right, if you dig into it, there's smarter people that in the music industry that'll tell you really depending on what's going on in the States and, you know, whether it's Democrats or Republicans in party and where the economy is the quality of the music that you're going to, popular music is what you pull out.
Interesting.
But yeah, as I say, there's way smarter guys that have done that recollection for sure. Where did you get your musical taste from, or like new music?
Well, in our house, I think it was primarily what my parents were listening to. So like my earliest musical memories are like a mix of, and it's really eclectic too, like Kenny Rogers, Olivia Newton-John, the Bee Gees, Burton Cummings. And I'm talking solo Burton Cummings.
Right.
Like, I discovered solo Burton Cummings before I discovered the Guess Who. And then, you know, being the youngest of siblings meant, you know, I did not get a say in what was on the radio. So it was a lot of AM top 40 radio. I could never go back and listen to that now, but so that really informed some of my musical taste. But my music, I didn't really discover my music until the 90s. But in the 90s, I was discovering all of the stuff that I had missed from before I was born.
You're filling in the blanks.
Yeah.
I'm still not a classic fan. Like my sister's current husband bought me the best of Led Zeppelin.
That's good.
It's
Mothership.
Okay. It's okay.
I love it.
And this is right. This is where I struggle is those classic things, or when is it Dirty Little Vultures came out?
Them Crooked Vultures.
That's it. And you know what I said? It sounds too much like Zeppelin. And they're like, that's the point. And I'm like,
really? Yeah. I don't get that.
No, because
to me,
his son's in it, right?
No, John Paul Jones, the bass player from
right.
Led Zeppelin, is the bass player for Them Crooked Vultures.
Okay, that's the connection.
Dave Grohl is
the drummer,
lead guitar, and
did he drum on it?
Sorry, that's right. He did drum on it. And Dave Holme, Queens of the Stone Age. Yeah,
right. Which
singer.
I like Queen of the Stone Age.
Yeah,
and I love
Josh Holme.
Yeah.
And
ideally, I just posted something the other day of Dave Grohl, and this is why I love him.
Yeah.
And he's just doing that song for that girl he's having the
drum battle,
the drum
off with. Yeah.
And he sang her a little song, and I think like right and. What an iconic guy, from the drummer of Nirvana to Foo Fighters to just, all round good guy. But yeah, and I mean, like anything he's attached to, I'll buy or download or listen to, however you're digesting it.
Yep.
As I say, some of it's not my forte.
I definitely got one that you wouldn't like, but yeah.
Oh, it's all good. I remember stealing from my cousins that lived in Oakville, so right more to the GTA, older than me.
Yeah.
I got Ministry.
Oh, now you're going way out there.
Oh, right. Industrial. And it was the land of rape and honey. Yeah. And I listened to that in my Sony Walkman.
Sure.
That was grade 9, track and field season and cross country, and just blared that.
Oh, wow.
And, I'm not necessarily into that now, but a lot of that was, but same thing.
I think of that as being like skater music.
Maybe, and that's maybe why I got out of it.
Maybe.
But, Pet Shop Boys, they were eclectic. They were 3 siblings, different ages.
Sure.
And so Pet Shop Boys, a lot of cool electric music that I got introduced to. And then like being an old guy in retail that works with kids, that was the real big next change in my musical tastes, was coming from the kids I worked with. So I was 30 and getting introduced to, music back in 2005.
Right.
That I probably never would have tuned into.
Yeah.
But they were listening to it and they're like, oh, Hollywood Undead. I would never have bought that. So it's sort of a hybrid of, I guess, rap and things like that, which I never thought I would have been a fan of.
Yeah.
And like it a lot. So it's interesting, right? That, depending on who you're hanging out with.
Yeah.
Or your friends. Like,
right.
Ideally, your friends are always going to give you, what they're listening to.
Sure.
If you're friends and you're listening to music together, you're like, oh, yeah, I can bond over that, right?
Yeah. I think we bond better over beer than we do over music.
For sure. I feel like depending on what the mood is and then who's got control of Siri or the music, depends on the playlist. And I put on, right? And I mean, right?
You've got enough on your phone that
I know.
It totally satisfies.
Right? And it's easy to stream now, right?
Oh
so, I can put on a Wes mix pretty darn quick at the house. And you're like, that was really good.
Yeah.
He's like, and I'm like, yeah, I picked whatever, some silly name and picked the stream. And
I can clear a room with, 45 minutes of Billy Idol.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, oh, it's so good. And I'm like, mm-hmm.
Sure. I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
two songs? White Wedding and the
Rebel Yell.
Oh, I wouldn't have gotten that.
Moni.
And Moni Moni.
Only because it was banned from the high school
Right?
dances.
Well, right, you insert your own words on that chorus every time. Of course it does.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's wow. Didn't expect to go down that rabbit hole.
oh, right. It's interesting. And as I say, right, as much as this has been a little convoluted and all over the place,
For sure.
Certainly shows people what we're interested in.
Yeah.
And that we have the ability to talk about a lot of different topics.
I think so. I think we can carry a pretty good conversation.
Yeah. So as I say, right, as this stuff starts to get released and you start to see it on our social media, we'll say again, click like, subscribe, and comment.
Yes.
What you liked out of this. I'm sure that it will be very helpful in the growth of Hanging at the Barbershop.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, like, start thinking about stuff that maybe you have some ideas at things that you'd like us to talk about.
For sure.
Yeah, maybe something that we can get into that we've never really considered before.
And I think too, if you think it's funny that two old guys are talking about something that's not meant for them to talk about, I think we'll definitely give that a try.
Yeah, I'm game.
Like I say, if it's a good story and I'm laughing at the end, man, I'm in.
Yeah, especially if it's at my expense.
We should cut it there.
Well, my friend, I think that's it for now.
All right. Thanks,
All right.
man. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too.
All
Let's
right.
do it again soon.
Perfect.
All right.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for hanging with us at the Barbershop. You can find us on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Please like and share us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter to stay up to date on all of our shenanigans. Hanging at the Barbershop is a Sawcast production.